Hey guys, it's Katie. This blog has been on my heart for a while now, maybe a few years, but God's just now given me the words to express it out loud, and I wanted to share it with you and hope that it gives you confidence in your lives to share the light that Christ has given you. As I've matured and gained more life experiences, I'm beginning to realize how ashamed people are when they struggle. I get it. It can be frightful to think that you are the only idiot that can't shake their depression, anxiety, inferior feelings, whatever it is. But I believe that this is one of the little lies that Satan rides in on to make us feel like we are the only one struggling. 2 Corinthians 11:4, 1 Peter 5:8. As I've mentioned, in my profession, I worked in schools. I got to encounter various types of students and teachers as they were each navigating the demanding expectations in front of them. As I gained more experiences in life, I began to realize how not only did each student I encounter struggle, but each of my peers and even my family members. Everyone I encountered had some way in which they struggled. The sad part was the shame that seemed to come with these struggles that told us we were not enough, because we had a hurdle to overcome. Even more sad, I realized that this shame drove us from each other. In this endless fight to cover up our perceived inadequacies, we began to isolate, which allows Satan to continue to build on our fears. You're the only idiot. You'll never be able to get better. You're just dragging your friends and family down. What can you offer to them? In this isolation, we forget to see the God in us. Because what I also began to see is that not only do each of us have hurdles that we are fighting to overcome, but we also all have these little gems that God has placed inside of us. These little intricate pieces that make us shine a unique aspect of His life, of His light. For some people, it is a smile that lights up a room regardless of the situation. For some, it is a peaceful and calming presence that makes everyone feel at ease. And for some, it is a demeanor that makes everyone want to sit up straighter and reach a little higher when they are around. It does not matter what it is. Everyone has it. A piece of God that makes them useful, meaningful, and full of purpose. It seems that not only have we learned to hide our deficiencies, we've also been taught to hide our good so that we aren't boastful or proud, or we've used our good to pretend that we are better than others. But if we all have deficiencies, and we all have pieces of God, why don't we use our strengths to help each other? Why don't we use our gems from God to build each other up, to make each other see the God in ourselves? When God gives anything, He doesn't want us to hide it under a bushel. Matthew 5:13-16. He wants us to continue to give. Acts 20:35. To share what He's freely given. 1 Corinthians 2:12. So that the world can see Him, but also so that we can be bound together in Him. If you see someone struggling, look inside yourself to find what He's given you to help them. And know that there will always be something. He's not left anyone out from receiving a piece of Him. Psalms 139:13-16. If it is your time to struggle, don't isolate yourself. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. Don't be ashamed or embarrassed. Proverbs 17:17. Look for the people that God has placed in your life that can help you overcome. Some days it may be a quick high five. Some days it may be a hug that seems to last forever while you weep on their shoulder. And some days it may be that you need an hour or so of their time. But do not isolate and do not believe that you're not worth it. Matthew 10:29-33. I pray that you continue to shine His light for others and begin to turn your struggles over to God. so that he can pair with you to find a solution. No, we aren't perfect. And yes, we all struggle. But God is with us and in us to support each other and carry us on when we fall. Isaiah 41:10, James 4:7-8, and 1 Peter 5:7.
So, Kate, I think that's good because I think you hit a universal principle in there, defined many times in the scriptures as, say, the mote and the beam. I see this beam in someone else's eye, and yet I have just a mote, but it's all perspective. I wonder what would happen if we look at people and we go, well, I don't know why they're not overcoming this.
Yeah.
And yet it directly reflects back on us and says, well, why aren't you overcoming yours?
Yeah.
And when we realize, well, we always have a justification for ours. Well, mine's hard.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried. I do this and I do that, and sometimes it's better, sometimes it's not better at all. And it's like, okay, well, isn't that everybody? I mean, isn't everybody who's sincere? And we say, well, we want to judge sincerity by what? It's not how much they've overcome. I think it's the effort they put into overcoming.
Mm-hmm.
And just look and say, you know what? I know that everybody is really the same. We're in the same boat. Mm-hmm. We suffer the same pains and arrows because we have the same kind of flesh, and as well as we have the same kind of God. Mm-hmm. So I know that God is there, mm-hmm. and I know that in our struggles, what do you think is the most important thing to maybe say, God, I'm struggling, but I know your grace is sufficient? I mean, is it wrong to put so much emphasis on struggle that we always fail?
Is it wrong not to emphasize struggle?
Yeah.
I don't know, because you don't want life, you don't want to just like sit around and talk about struggle. But I think at the same time, I don't know, we so are focused on the end that we don't acknowledge that there is a process and acknowledge mm-hmm. that there is a journey. Mm-hmm. Well, and I don't know. I guess I see so often just there's a frustration in not being there. Well, even the other day, our youngest Samuel, I don't know, he was frustrated in school, and I said, it was the beginning of the week, and I said, babe, why are you frustrated? The week just started. You shouldn't know this yet. And he was like, he just looked at me and he said, why not? And I was like, because you haven't learned it yet. Like, I think it's good that we have goals, and it's good that we have direction, and we have a purpose, as long as it's in Christ. But I have to also acknowledge that it's not like we blink our eyes and we've arrived. Like, we have to put the work in. And mm-hmm. we know that he's with us in the journey, and he's taken us where he's taking us, and but it's still a journey.
Yeah, you don't climb the mountain in the first step.
Right, yes.
And to the mountain, to get to the peak of the mountain doesn't mean you don't have a valley in between.
Yeah,
there,
and you make right.
It's not all, if it was all straight up, it'd be impossible to climb.
Well, even on Everest, there's a base camp. I think they spend a few weeks there. Like, it's, yeah.
They have to get acclimated before they can go on up.
I mean, further, yeah.
Yeah. So I think if we could separate our frustration instead of making it God's frustration.
Not assume God feels the same way we feel. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be something really important to say, hey, who do I trust to be more just and full of grace and mercy? Do I trust myself or do I trust God? Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we're harder on ourselves than God is ever harder on us. Because God says, like you said, Sam is like, oh, I should be able to do it instantly. Well, no, nobody should be able to. Because you want to, it doesn't mean you can.
Right. I appreciate the desire, hon, but you got to match that with learning.
Yeah. And that would move us back from the end to the next step. Say, what is the next step? You know, even in the Bible, it talks about steps where it talks about, as newborn babes, there's either sincere milk of the word that you may grow thereby. But then it goes on to say that eating meat, you know, he said, you should now be eating meat. It's time for you to eat meat. It's time for you to mature. But he doesn't say you got to eat meat on the first day because you choke to death on it. So I'm the person who says, okay, discipline is important. Make yourself do it no matter what you do. And if you fail, you fail. It's because you lack something. And sometimes it's like, experience.
That's what you lack.
Maybe it was bigger than I thought it was. You know, maybe I underestimated what it was going to take to get this done. Maybe I underestimated how stubborn I was. But I'm like, no, you're going to do it. And that doesn't discount discipline at all. But we can say that, you know, I've always said in child raising, there's two things you have to. One is you definitely have to do, and one is you cannot do it all. Is that you have to break their will. So if they're willful, disobedient, you have to put your hand down and hold them down until they yield that it is more important to follow you than follow themselves. But you don't want to break their spirit. You don't want to crush them and say, you're a failure. You do everything as a failure. Because then where do they go from there? Once you're a failure, you failed.
That's what you are.
That's what you are. That's right.
There's no changing who you are. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think in everything you're saying there, it's about, number one, would I want myself to be my best friend? And if I wouldn't, I need to change that. You know? And sometimes it's like, no, I'm a jerk. I want to walk away from myself. I don't like you, Mike. Golly. Go clean up your act. But then there's the other one that say, you know, Jesus is my best friend. And he understands. Can I rely on him to be or to make a great assessment to where I am? So if he's going to encourage me, I need to be encouraged. If he says rest, I need to rest.
Yeah.
It's all about that journey, right?
And be okay with me in the meantime.
Yeah. If he's okay
That's what I'm not good at.
If he's okay with you, then you got to be okay with yourself. Otherwise, you move away from his will.
Yeah.
When he says rest and you want to keep running, he's like, no, you don't understand. You're going to run a little way and then you're going to be so exhausted you can't finish the journey. So rest. Are you sure we're going to get there, God? Yeah, well, I'm sure. I'm sure we're going to get there. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Good thought-provoking ideas, Katie. Very, very good. Very common. I think these things are just so prevalent amongst all people. But not all people have the courage to sit down and look at them. They just want to make excuses for them one way or the other.
Yeah.
Too lenient, too hard, whatever.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's not easy at all.
Balance. Balance is the key. Another name for God is a God of balance. Because he's not excessive. He's just adequate in every way. More than enough.
Well, and knowing when.
Yeah.
Because, like, we have a strong-willed child, and it's like, there are some things, it's like, hell no. And it's not that the action itself is something that's a big deal. It's the fact that we said no.
Yes.
That's the only reason it's a big deal. And if you hadn't pushed and questioned and disobeyed, it wouldn't be that big a deal. But right now,
for him to succeed is to be rebellious. Because he's going against you saying no. No. So, very good. Very good. Good. We'll have to write a book someday on how to raise ourselves and then raise our children.
So that we can raise our children that are already grown,
Once I get there. I'm not there yet. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Good. Love you.
Love you.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining us for Around the Supper Table. At Sanctuary Family Farms, we want to be real. Whether that's through our blogs, daily verses, or even Nana's recipes, we want to share the messages that God has laid on each of our hearts. If you liked what you heard today or want to get in touch with us, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Sanctuary Family Farms or our website at www.sanctuaryfamilyfarms.com, where we share our recipes and blogs and sell farm fresh beef and pork. We can't wait for you to join us again for next week's episode.